Why do some people make six figures and still end up broke? Why do lottery winners sometimes lose everything? And why do some ordinary people who never made massive salaries, quietly retire as millionaires? How is it possible that one person can earn thousands of dollars every week and still live paycheck to paycheck, while another person earning an average income slowly builds wealth over time? Most people think money problems are caused by a lack of intelligence. But the truth is, many bad money habits have very little to do with intelligence. Some of the smartest people in the world are terrible with money. Doctors, athletes, celebrities, business owners, professionals. People who can perform complicated surgeries, build companies, and manage large teams sometimes struggle to manage their own finances. Because money is emotional, money is psychological, and many of the financial habits we have today were formed long before we got our first paycheck. Some people spend money to impress others. Some people spend money because they never had anything growing up. Some people save every dollar because they grew up terrified of losing everything. Some people avoid checking their bank accounts because money creates anxiety. Others overspend because shopping temporarily fills emotional emptiness. And many people don't even realize they are doing this. The truth is, your relationship with money often begins in childhood, long before your first job, long before your first credit card, long before adulthood. It begins with what you saw, what you heard, what you survived. Maybe you watched your parents fight about bills. Maybe you grew up hearing things like, we can't afford that, money doesn't grow on trees, or rich people are greedy. Or maybe success around you was measured by appearances, the nice car, the expensive clothes, the big house, even if the people buying those things were drowning in debt. Many people are not spending money because they are happy. They are spending money because they are stressed, lonely, trying to fit in, trying to heal, trying to feel successful, trying to prove something. And social media has only made this worse. Every day, millions of people compare their real financial situation to somebody else's highlight reel. People go into debt trying to look rich. People lease cars they cannot afford. People buy luxury items while secretly struggling to pay rent. And the saddest part? Many people don't even know why they behave this way. But today, we are going to talk about the psychology behind bad money habits. We're going to talk about why some wealthy people lose everything, why some ordinary people quietly build wealth, how childhood trauma affects spending habits, how fear shapes financial behavior, and why changing your financial life often starts by changing the way you think. Because sometimes the biggest thing standing between you and your financial freedom isn't your income, it's your mindset. Money is one of the most powerful things in modern society. Almost every major decision we make somehow connects back to money. Where we live, where we marry, the jobs we take, the stress we carry, the opportunities we have, even the confidence some people feel. Money affects almost everything. And yet very few people are actually taught how to emotionally handle it. Schools teach algebra, history, science, but many people finish school without understanding budgeting, debt, investing, emotional spending, financial psychology, or how trauma affects financial decisions. So what exactly is money? Money itself is neutral. It is simply a tool, but the emotions attached to money are incredibly powerful. For some people, money represents safety. For others, it represents freedom. For some, it represents status. And for others, money represents survival. This is why two people can receive the exact same paycheck and behave completely differently with it. One person saves, another spends. One person invests, another avoids checking their bank account. One person builds wealth slowly, another constantly chases appearances. Because people do not just spend money, they spend emotions. And the problem is, if your emotions are unhealthy, your financial habits often become unhealthy too. One of the biggest myths about money is that making a lot of money automatically makes you financially successful. It doesn't. There are professional athletes who made millions of dollars and ended up bankrupt. Celebrities who earned fortunes and lost everything. Lottery winners who became poorer after winning. At first glance, this seems impossible. How does someone receive millions of dollars and still lose everything? The answer is psychology. Because if your mindset does not change, more money often magnifies your existing habits. Money doesn't automatically create discipline. It doesn't automatically create emotional stability. And it definitely does not heal trauma. In fact, for some people, sudden wealth makes emotional problems worse. Some people use money to numb pain. Others use it to seek validation. Some finally buy everything they were deprived of as children. And because nobody taught them financial discipline, they confuse wealth with endless spending. There are people who grew up feeling invisible and suddenly use money to feel important. Expensive cars, designer clothing, luxury vacations, not because they truly need those things, but because the attention temporarily fills emotional gaps. And social pressure makes this even worse. Many people feel pressure to look successful before they actually become financially stable. So they spend money trying to create the appearance of wealth. But appearances are expensive, and fake wealth often creates real debt. A person can look rich online and still be financially drowning in real life. That is why some high-income earners still live paycheck to paycheck, because income alone does not create wealth. Behavior does. Now let's talk about the opposite side, the people who never looked rich, but quietly became wealthy. These people usually do not attract much attention. They are not always driving luxury cars. They are not constantly showing off online. They are not trying to impress everyone around them. Sometimes they are teachers, nurses, factory workers, immigrants, small business owners, government employees, people with ordinary incomes, and yet some retire with millions. Others leave behind inheritances that completely change the future of their families. How? Usually through consistency, patience, discipline, and emotional control. Many wealthy people live far below their means. They understand something many people never learn. Wealth is often quiet. Real wealth is not always visible. A person driving an expensive car may be deeply in debt. Meanwhile, somebody driving a modest vehicle may own investments, properties, retirement savings, and financial peace. One of the biggest differences between financially stable people and financially unstable people is often delayed gratification, the ability to sacrifice temporary pleasure for long-term peace. And honestly, this is becoming harder in modern society because we now live in a culture that encourages constant consumption. Buy now, pay later, upgrade everything, show everybody. People are constantly encouraged to spend money emotionally, but financial stability usually requires emotional discipline. And emotional discipline is deeply connected to mindset. Many people spend most of their younger years believing retirement is too far away to think about. And honestly, when you are young, retirement feels almost imaginary. But time moves incredibly fast. One day you're in your 20s, thinking you have forever. And suddenly, you are approaching retirement realizing you may not have prepared enough. This is why small, consistent financial habits matter so much. Not because they make you rich overnight, but because consistency over decades becomes powerful. A person investing small amounts consistently for years can completely change the future of their family. And unfortunately, many people only begin taking money seriously After experiencing financial pain like debt, job loss, health problems, an emergency, sometimes life forces people to finally confront the financial habits they avoided for years. Many people do not realize this, but childhood experiences often shape adult financial behavior. A child who grows up hearing constant financial stress may develop anxiety around money. A child who grew up without necessities may become an adult who overspends once they finally have income. A child who watches their parents constantly argue about bills may begin associating money with fear. And some children grow up believing that their worth depends on financial success. These emotional patterns often follow people into adulthood, sometimes without them even realizing it. For example, some adults become extreme savers because they are terrified of ever becoming poor again. Others avoid budgeting completely because money conversations trigger emotional stress. Some people constantly financially rescue other people because they grew up in environments where they felt responsible for everyone. And many immigrants experience a completely different type of financial pressure, especially people from collectivist cultures. In many African families, Caribbean families, Asian families, and immigrant households in general, financial success is often shared. When one person succeeds, many people depend on them. And while helping family can be beautiful, it can also create emotional pressure. Some immigrants send money home while struggling themselves. Some feel guilty saving for themselves. Others feel trapped between building their own future and helping the people they love. These are emotional realities many people never talk about. And this is why personal finance is not just math. It's deeply emotional. Two people can know the same exact financial advice, but their emotional relationship with money can completely change how they behave around it. Some children grow up in homes where money problems are impossible to ignore. They hear the arguments. They notice the stress. They watch parents panic over bills. Sometimes the electricity gets cut. Sometimes the fridge is nearly empty. Sometimes they hear phrases like, "We can't afford it. Do you think money grows on trees? We're struggling." And children absorb more than adults realize. Even when nobody explains the financial situation directly to them, children can feel the anxiety inside the house. And many of those children grow into adults who never truly feel financially safe. Even when they start making decent money, even when they finally have stable jobs, because emotionally, part of them still feels like everything could disappear tomorrow. That fear changes behavior. Some become obsessed with saving. Others become obsessed with spending because they want to finally experience the things they lacked growing up. And many don't realize those childhood emotions are still controlling them decades later. Social media has dramatically changed the way people think about money. For the first time in history, people are constantly exposed to the lifestyle of thousands of strangers every single day. Luxury vacations, designer bags, expensive restaurants, perfect apartments, luxury cars. And after seeing this repeatedly, many people begin comparing their real life to curated online lifestyles. The problem is that comparison creates emotional pressure, and emotional pressure often creates emotional spending. People start buying things they do not need to impress people they do not even know. And unfortunately, social media rarely shows the debt behind the lifestyle. It rarely shows the credit card balances, the financial anxiety, the loans, the stress, the unpaid taxes, the sleepless nights. People compare their reality to someone else's performance, and slowly, many begin believing they are falling behind in life. But financial success is not a race. And one of the worst financial habits people can develop is spending money trying to keep up with others. Because somebody will always have more. There will always be a newer car, a bigger house, a better vacation, a more expensive phone. And if your happiness depends on constantly competing financially, you may never feel satisfied. Have you ever noticed that many people shop the most when they are emotionally overwhelmed? Not necessarily when they need something, but when they feel stressed, lonely, rejected, bored, anxious. Shopping gives many people temporary emotional relief. For a few moments, buying something new creates excitement. It creates distraction. It creates dopamine. And for some people, spending becomes emotional therapy. That's why some people continue shopping even when they know they cannot afford it. Because logically, they know they should stop. But emotionally, the spending is serving another purpose. And this is something companies understand extremely well. Modern marketing is not just selling products anymore. It's selling identity, status, comfort, confidence, escape. And when people are emotionally vulnerable, they become much easier to influence financially. One thing people rarely talk about is that some people are actually afraid of financial success. Not consciously, but subconsciously. Because success can create pressure, expectations, responsibility, judgment from others. Sometimes people grow up around jealousy, criticism, or negativity toward successful people. So deep down, they begin associating wealth with stress or rejection. And without realizing it, they sabotage opportunities. They procrastinate. They overspend. They avoid listening. They avoid growth because part of them feels uncomfortable becoming financially successful. And this is why changing your financial life is not just about learning information. It's about healing your relationship with money emotionally. The good news is this: your financial habits are not permanent. Your past may explain your behavior, but it does not have to define your future. First step to changing your financial life is awareness. You need to become honest about your relationship with money. Ask yourself, why do I spend the way I do? What emotions trigger my spending? What beliefs about money did I learn growing up? Do I associate money with fear, status, safety, validation? Because when you understand the emotional roots of your financial behavior, you begin gaining control over it. Financial freedom is not just about making more money. It's also about emotional discipline, patience, self-awareness, delayed gratification, and intentional living. Some of the happiest people are not the people with the most money. They are the people with peace, the people who are financially stable, the people who sleep at night without constant financial anxiety, the people who are not controlled by comparison. And slowly, with small, consistent decisions, your financial life can completely change. A budget may seem small. Saving a little every month may seem small. Avoiding emotional spending may seem small. But over years, these small habits create entirely different futures for you and for your family. One day you wake up and you realize you are no longer surviving. You are finally stable. And maybe that is what true wealth really is. Not looking rich, not impressing strangers, not constantly chasing more, but finally having peace. People often say money cannot buy happiness. And while that may be true to some extent, financial stability can absolutely reduce suffering. Being able to pay your bills without panic matters. Being able to sleep peacefully matters. Being able to handle emergencies matters. Being able to help your children matters. Being able to rest without constant financial fear matters. Money may not solve every problem in life, but financial instability can create enormous emotional stress. And that is why building a healthier relationship with money is not just about becoming wealthy. It is about creating peace. It is about creating stability. It is about creating options. And sometimes that peace is worth far more than appearances. If this video made you reflect on your relationship with money, let me know in the comments. What money belief did you grow up with that still affects you today? And if you enjoyed this type of deeper financial content, subscribe to the channel. Because sometimes changing your financial life starts with changing the way you think.